Brother Singletary, how you doing, brother? My brother, what's going on?
Everything going lovely, Shakem. How you doing, bro?
Man, it's doing beautiful, man. Man, I'm definitely happy to have you on, man. You've always been a very motivational and inspiration, brother. And you know,
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, and you know, you and I, man, we've gone through some battles together, you know, with the city. And you know,
there's more to come. There's more to come.
More to come. That's right. So everybody, this is gonna be a very interesting discussion. I want everybody to call in. I got people online. Man, we are waiting to hear everything. But first, I want you to tell the people who you are, so you can introduce yourself to the people, brother.
My name is John Singletary from North Charleston. I'm a candidate for mayor for 2019 for North Charleston. I was in 2015, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Okay. All right. So, you know, first and foremost, man, we've been having a lot of issues right now with and we're going to start on a national level, and then we're going to get to the local level. But we've been having a great discussion right now on race, politics, and sports. You know, this has been one of the most, I would say, tumultuous years since I've been born. You know, we've had, you know, Donald Trump. He's been, you know, in office saying a lot of things. We've had, you know, Colin Kaepernick right now. He's leading the sports world as far as bringing race relations to the front. Now, tell us, how do you feel about NFL players or any player in sports kneeling for the national anthem? How do you feel about that?
I think that when the national anthem serves all of its people as it should, then they'll get greater participation. I have no problem at all with someone taking a knee. When I was at the Citadel and they tried to make me sing Dixie, I shut my mouth. So I stood silently while every member in my class around me sang Dixie, because I had no intention, none whatsoever, to open my mouth to sing it. By the same token, Colin Kaepernick feels that, as many of us do, that the flag does not live up to its highest potential, and that as a result, we should not support it until it serves all of us. When we take a look at the federal statute, there's a federal statute that deals with the flag and some illegalities. For instance, you cannot take a flag and make a trash can or make a bandana for your head.
Okay.
Walmart, you can go and buy it at Walmart right now. So they will allow a corporation to denigrate the flag in order to make money, when that is clearly illegal. But yet, when a man uses his right to kneel to say, hey, in quietness, I'm going to protest the fact that this flag is not living up to the standards that it is set by itself, then he gets ostracized. This is very similar to what's going on, you know, and we'll get to it in the show. I'm sure we're talking about the FBI investigation,
right,
and the new black identity extremist that really goes all the way back to Roosevelt and the bill list.
Right.
That was formulated. And so I have no problem whatsoever. I'm in full support of the brother.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I was just informed I got the wrong number posted in. The number to call is 347-855-8692. I accidentally put a 1 there, but we here live. So this is what I want to talk about, right? Black identity extremists. And I want you to give your take on this. Now, as everybody knew, I was questioned by the FBI. The FBI came to my mother's house, and it was a guy from from the Joint Terrorism Task Force. And this was before the article came out about how they were targeting black so-called identity extremists. And one of the things that really got me is the fact that, you know, they were asking me about my anti-police sentiments and my anti-police rhetoric. And I had to explain to the FBI officer that almost 90% of black America and even white America now also has a very, I would say, anti-police tone because of the way that we have been shot down and beat down in the street. So, you know, what is your take on this black identity extremist thing that we got going on?
Well, you know, recently I requested from SLED to get a copy of the information that was dealing with the SLED investigation, and they just recently, 2 days ago, sent me a file that has thousands of documents on it. And it's surprising. It appears to me the black identity extremists, the BIE, there's a report that was done by the FBI. And what they're trying to do is make it appear that there are a group or a list of people that are targeting policemen, and that gives them the go-ahead to start harassing people. And it shouldn't. That black identity extremist, like we were talking earlier about the bitter list. The bitter list was a list that came up where they had a list of people who they said were subversive organizations. And that meant that basically you were troublemakers. They had everything from the National Federation for Children to black national art groups to you name it, that was on that list. Anytime someone began to talk about liberation and standing up for civil rights, they ended up on that list. Now, the list started way back in, you know, Roosevelt days. And finally, Nixon ended that list being formulated. But the sentiment still goes on that when you have a group of people who want to talk about liberation or talk about civil rights, then they begin to target them. And as a result, it could lead to something just like the Bloody Sunday, when in London you had, you know, 28 unarmed civilians just shot and gunned down. Or we can bring it home to where we are. We had 9 people shot and killed downtown. We had the Hamburg massacre here in South Carolina, and on and on and on. When you begin to stop people from talking about liberation and stop them from talking about their own civil rights, you end up getting a situation where, whether it's the FBI, whether it's SLED, the police force, or any other form of government that is in charge of the security, begins to feel that they are isolated and they can treat people any way they want. Right. Now, I know what they did to you. I know they came in, they scared your sister, scared your mom. And, right. You know, it's not right. What they should have done was contacted you. Right. But that's part of the tactic that, you know, we know where to find him. He's been out in the public. I mean, we can find him any day of the week at the school dealing with the children. But what we want to do is make others understand that you stay away from the troublemaker and you have nothing to do with him. We need to shut him down by first taking his support out. Then we leave him as a standalone island, then it's easy to deal with him. Right. Okay. And so, you know. Now. Okay. So that's a good point. So now another topic that I want you to get into right now is okay, so just recently there was an article that came out in the paper and they were saying that 2, I would say, representatives in South Carolina, what they were talking about doing, you know, we have the monument issue right now. So what they wanted to do is erect a monument to honor black
Confederate soldiers. What do you think is the idea behind? Is there any benefit to, you know, honoring black Confederate soldiers? They're trying to say, you know what, we want to kind of bring a compromise. So is a compromise putting up a statue in honor of black Confederate soldiers?
Well, I guess you're talking about the article that came out dealing with Chumley of Woodruff and then Mike Burns of Travelers, talking about, and I think the title of the South Carolina Politicians Propose Monument Honoring Black Confederate Soldiers.
Right.
To me, that in no way, shape, or form addresses the problem that we have. Now, it may be, in their opinion, nice to do that. But normally, to the victor goes the spoils. And if the South lost, then how in the world do we continue to fight by erecting all these statues and everything, honoring those who lost?
Right.
And who want to continue the memory of slavery, where blacks were treated as chattel, just like they were a piece of furniture,
right, that
you could take an insurance policy out on, that you could do anything you want to with them because they had no rights. I mean, as Judge Tandy said, you know, a black man has no rights that a white man has to respect. When I think about what would be the best thing, it is to take a look at the jobs and contracts and give us our fair share. Because if you gave us our fair share, we could erect our own monuments if we wanted to.
Right.
And mentally and economically, we would be in the position that even with your statutes, it would not have the impact on our youth coming up, seeing that, or our people or any tourists that come in, going by it, that they would not be reminded that not only then, but now, you still control the black community through denial of economics. When you go to Hampton Park, Wade Hampton, one of the worst figures, in my opinion, ever in South Carolina. And we go to a park, we have to go to Wade Hampton Park. Ben Tillman, George LeGree Holmes, Danny Jones, where we have to go and play in. So it's more than just an erection of one monument, because there are thousands of them. And we go to Aiken, South Carolina, and we look at the monument that they did there for the one white man that got killed after they renamed the town from Hamburg to Aiken. What are they going to do with that statue? And the state takes care of the maintenance on that statue. When we take statues down, oftentimes they appropriate funding from the state to then maintain and take care of that statue. Now, who gets the contract to do the maintenance? So it costs us greater tax dollars oftentimes to take it down than to either destroy it or leave it up. And so what we need to take a look at is we need to take a look at the economic inclusion. That means our fair share. South Carolina, we're 40% of the population. Why aren't we getting 40% of the jobs and 40% of the contracts?
Right.
If that happened, I would say leave the statue up.
Right.
I would say leave it up and give me like 40% of the jobs, 40% of the contracts. Give me quality education in our schools for our children.
All right.
Because like right now, even say for instance, if you started a charter school, the amount of money you get is based upon the taxes paid in the area in which you live. So if you're in a richer area, you get more money. I mean, we all know it's the deprived children that need greater resources. And so the system is, from the foundation, constructed in such a way that it inherently denies us as African Americans. And I say that because in North Charleston, we're not the minority. We're the majority. We're 50% of the population. And so we shouldn't even consider minority programs here because we're the majority. But we need our fair share of jobs and contracts. If we got those, then the statute we can ignore.
Right. Okay. So we got some callers on here. I'm about to take some calls for you. And I like what the brother just said. He said, you know what? If we were able, you know, there's no way we should call ourselves minorities when we are in districts and in cities where the population is a majority black. So we even have to kind of look at the language we're using to call ourselves, because if we have that minority mindset, however, we find ourselves in the majority, we're doing ourselves a disservice. All right, caller, ending in 5691. 5691. You're on the air. Caller, ending in 5691.
Hey. Hello.
Hey, what's going on, caller?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Peace. Hey, how you doing, brother? This is Tiffany.
Peace.
How you doing?
We're doing all right. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yes, I wanted to give in my commentaries regarding to this whole BIE, the Black Identity Extremists.
Okay, let's have it.
Okay, now I remember you sent me an article about that. So I looked at the article, and I want to say that it's no different from what was being said back in the. It's no different from what was being said back in the 20s and the 30s about all the different black organizations. So I'm not as surprised with the whole thing coming out as far as how the FBI feel about us. But the question is, when are we going to start waking up and really seeing that this is how the government really feels about us as a people? As far as, like, anytime we try to do for ourselves, or we just want to come up with our own philosophy and ideas. Like, when it's going to take for us to really see that? Because I don't think that half of us really get it. Or we do get it, but we don't want to, like, you know, face the reality of it.
Right. Hey, sister, let me ask you a quick question, right? This is kind of, this might be a little not off the topic, but I want to get your perspective. Now, I made a post on Facebook earlier about Jamel Hill. Now, the sister actually stood up and spoke out against Jerry Jones and what he was trying to make those brothers do on the field. The sister stood up. ESPN turned around and suspended the sister. And, of course, now that is going to cause her some financial difficulties. Now, nobody from the Dallas Cowboys or the NFL has spoke out on behalf of that sister. And you got brothers on social media right now blasting the sister because she shared an article and said she agreed with some of the stuff about a brother who said that, I guess, black men are somehow, you know, positioning themselves as being the new white man over black women. Tell me, how do you feel about the lack of brothers that's standing up for this sister who put her job on the line to speak out on behalf of them?
Okay, let me give my commentary on that. That whole black man is the white man of the black people. I totally disagree with that. And I think that that's just very biased and very, like, you know, that's very biased and very disrespectful in a way, because especially when you just say that a specific group of black men, you ain't just saying all black men, you're saying straight black men. Like, right. That's not fair. That's not fair to the black man himself who's trying every single day, who's doing what he can as a man to be dedicated. So I don't agree with that article. I dismiss that whole article, period, point blank. I think that wasn't even right. That wasn't even a great title for that. Now, as far as the sister is concerned, if these players, if these black men who call themselves protesting for, you know, injustice or the flag, yeah, they should have said something in the beginning. But I think the reason why they probably didn't want to say anything, because after coming out, finding out how she agreed with the article, then, yeah, you know, it kind of made people not want to just step in and do something about that. But before that article situation even came about, I think they should have just stepped in and get something. I think that, you know, especially Shannon Sharp, I think if he like to talk about all this other stuff, why he ain't stepped in and tried to figure out how she can get her job back so she won't have to worry about going through the financial difficulties.
Okay, well, I definitely appreciate that, sis, and thank you for giving your feedback, man. I do want to hear from more sisters about this issue. I feel like, you know, personally, we need to have the sister back regardless. You know, there's some things that I've said people disagree with. There's some things that, you know, we've all said that people disagree with. I totally fundamentally understand that. But if you notice, Donald Trump's followers, no matter what he says, whether they agree or disagree, they are going to have his back 1,000%. And I feel like in order to match the intensity that he's bringing and his followers are bringing, we have to have that same undying love for our people in order to match the undying love that they have for each other. So whenever we allow these little nuances and ideologies and these little spats, when we allow these to prevent each other from going hard for one another, then that kind of keeps us backwards, because there's no way that this black woman should be attacked by white men, racist white men, and black men stand on the sideline and talk about, oh, 2 weeks ago you shared an article on Twitter, so we're not standing by you. I think it's the ultimate sign of treason.
I mean, okay, I get where you come from. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead, sis.
If you just think about it now, just think about it. I mean, that's just like saying if a black woman came out with an article saying the same thing about black women, and the black man agrees with that, then as me as a black woman, I don't feel some kind of way. I don't feel like, well, what's the purpose of me defending for you if you feel like I'm just a white person of the black race? You know, because again, that's offensive. I mean, and I don't even think that should be a comparison, period. So I can understand some of the brothers' position on that. I really do.
Okay. Well, I definitely appreciate that, Queen, and we thank you for your input, and we thank you for calling.
All right, then. Thank you.
All right, yes, ma'am. Peace. All right, John, let's get your take on that, brother.
Yeah. Well, the article that was dealing with Jamel Hill, I don't think that she should have been suspended. I mean, things that have been much worse have been said not only on social media, but on the air, and they didn't suspend the individual. She has the right to say that if players were not allowed to kneel, that it puts some in the position that they'll be viewed as sellouts, is what she was saying. I really think that if we support her, then what we should do is, with our finances, make sure that ESPN feels it. They should feel it by not supporting them and their subsidiaries of products and viewing their network until they concede that, listen, we need to either hire her back or we need to make some concessions for it. It's just like when, you know, the recent thing on Facebook dealing with Dove soap and the girl who takes off the shirt, and she's black before and white after. You have to address that by pooling your resources to say, not only are we not going to buy any more Dove, but we're not going to be buying products from the parent company either. So we're not going to be buying Hellman's or Ben & Jerry's. And all of the products, over 400 products, come out of the owners of Dove, which is Unilever, which actually is a company that is not here. It's headquarters over in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So the money doesn't even stay in the United States anyway. And what we're talking about is, you know, them having revenue close to $52 billion. A lot of that is our money. So what we need to begin to do as blacks is, when we see something that, you know, it's that offensive to us, then we need to do more than just open our mouths and protest. We need to show it in action by not supporting, even if we have to do without. When we take a look at how they made strides during the civil rights era, when you won't let us ride the bus, okay, we'll walk. We'll take a cab, a black cab, or have somebody carry us to work. We will crush you financially, okay? How did Gandhi do it? We won't buy your products. And you will eventually get up and leave.
Right.
We have to do more than just talk.
Right.
We have to
John, let me
marriage between.
All right, I'm gonna take another caller for you. Okay, we got a caller on the line.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir. Ending in 5794. 5794. Caller, what you got? Caller, ending in 5794.
Yes, sir. Ending in 5794.
Hey, what? Hello?
Hello? Hey, put your phone on. Yeah, peace, we can hear you.
Hey, what's going on, my brother?
Hey,
how you doing, brother?
Hey, man, first of all, I appreciate everything you're doing.
Yes, sir, appreciate that.
Yeah, so, man, my take on this is really simple. I feel as though, she should have been fired. I feel like the players, they should be fired. I feel like they should keep firing us until we are forced to be dependent upon ourselves. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we do. You know what I'm saying? As of right now, they're trying to change the rules and make it mandatory for players to stand up. So it doesn't matter, you know what I'm saying, where they place the goal line. They're going to keep moving it because they're not, their intention isn't for us to be equal. It's for us to be subordinate. So the only thing we can do is say, well, please, please, please. And at the end of the day, if we got our own, we don't have to worry about all that. And it's really just that simple. Other than that, you're going to continue to beg. You're going to continue to say, hey, be fair to me. And why should they be fair to us? And what they're saying is, hey, we gave you a job. You know what I'm saying? We're paying you. Shut up and just, appreciate that.
Okay. Well, I definitely appreciate that perspective, brother. I thank you for calling in. We're going to build on that. The brother said he thinks Jamel Hill should be fired. He thinks all the players should be fired to teach us a lesson. That's called tough love. We appreciate that, brother. Okay, John. Oh, I was just trying to, there was another caller who just called in. I was trying to get you on, but they hung up. Okay, John, you want to talk about that?
Sure. I think that everybody has their own opinion.
Okay, good. Hold on. Call back in. Hold on. Call back in. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Ending in 2632. Caller, ending in 2632.
Yes, I'm here with you. This Universal Vibes. I'm here with you.
Universal Vibes. Peace, my brother. What's going on? What you got today?
Peace. Like the other brother said, we need to just get out of there. Just evacuate. That's all. Just plan and plot and move forward. There's no need for it. We don't need anything other than ourselves. All we have to do is work. We need to work. We don't need any specific leader. We just need to work on just different in different sectors. Let me say that, different sectors, and just work. That's all it takes. That's it. That's really all I gotta say. I appreciate y'all.
Oh, yes, sir. Salute. Really. Oh man, salute, brother. We appreciate that. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, John, let me take another caller.
Okay.
Okay, 0166. Caller 0166. You on the air. Caller 0166. Okay, they must not be listening. Okay, John, what you got, brother? Go ahead, give us your insight.
For those who wish to forge ahead, even in white America, we need to support them. It's okay to have our own, and we should. We need to construct the solutions for our own problems. But at the same time, we need to understand that America, as it is a melting pot. So it's black and white. While Jews have a base, whites have a base, Asians have a base, we need a base that economically allows us to be self-supportive, and that gives us strength when we've been dealing with another culture or another race. And so for those who want to forge and stay ahead in the NFL, then that's fine. They need to do that with our full support in making sure that they can stand up for civil rights, whether they're in a black environment or a white environment. Shouldn't make a difference.
Right.
We should not say that just because you are in a white environment, then you forego all of your rights. You should be able to stay there and be protected as an American citizen. Forget about your color. Now, if you want to be in a black environment, if you want to go to Howard University, then you should have the same rights under the Constitution than if you wanted to go to Harvard or Yale. And so we can't, it's not a situation where, you know, it's all in water and it's just simply not going to mix. Even some of the best salad dressings are mixtures, they're all in water. So we have to understand that it's much larger than just race. One, we're an American citizen in this country. And as an African American who happens to be here, I want to be able to go anywhere in this country and feel that my constitutional rights are taken care of. Right. She should be able to speak her mind. Colin should be able to take a knee if he chooses to, because the flag is being desecrated every day, like I said, by corporate America legally, and nobody says anything. So why should he not be able to kneel?
Right. So we're going to get to some more callers. Brother made a point. He said, no matter, we understand brother saying that, hey, we need to evacuate the premises and all of that. But the brother just made a counter statement. And he said, no matter where you are, no matter if you are black and you have to work in white America, as black people, we need to stick behind you and support you. And we need to let it be known that, yeah, this brother or this sister is working in white America, but that doesn't mean we're going to allow white America to do whatever they want to do to our brothers and sisters. And I think that's a good point. Okay, we're going to take the next caller. Ending in 2632. Caller, you on there?
Yeah, I was just listening with this universal vibe, just listening to what the last brother just said.
Oh, okay.
You know, all that's well and good. All that's well and good, what he said, but I just don't understand why is it that we have to battle to be a part of what they have going on. We shouldn't have to battle. If it's that hard, if we have to spend decade after decade after decade going over the same exact thing, it's that we're never going to win. We all know the definition of insanity. So why are we trying the same thing over and over and over? We can do our own thing. I'm down with supporting the brother, but we're trying to play the game one way, and they're not trying to play it that way at all. They're not budging at all. This is totally unnecessary. We need to have our own plans, and we just need to execute. That's the only thing we're lacking is execution. We plan, we plot, we talk, we speak, but we never execute. Like I said, we just need to work. We need to have our own football players, our own nail techs, all of that. It's just execution. That's it. We just got to do it. That's all. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Right. That's what's up. Okay. Okay. John, let me get this caller in. They've been holding. 9648. Okay. Calling. Ending in 9648. 9648. Caller, you on there?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to go. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to go off what everybody else was saying. I feel as we as black people need to stop waiting and needing the approval of the white man. I feel that's our setback. I feel that the reason why they free the slave wasn't because they felt bad for us. It's because we fought back. When we start fighting back, that's when we'll start seeing changes. All this when the boycott the NFL and the NBA, I think that's just stupid. Because the NFL and NBA produce more black millionaires. We should demand more from ourselves than waiting for the white man to help us. We don't need their help. And we fund our own schools. We teach our own kids. We get our kids into college. We can get our kids into this government. That's how we can change the system. Not by waiting and letting them do it for us. We can do it ourselves. But we just have to put forth that effort. And we have to get our kids together and get them in these positions to make a change, a real change for us. So I don't understand why everybody wants to boycott the NFL and the NBA when those are the millionaires and the people that can help us.
Right.
There's so many NFL teams that support the Boys and Girls Clubs that give back to the inner cities. Why? Because they want to? No, because it's a tax write-off. So why are we going to boycott them, hit their income, and the government's still not going to change? Well, y'all, even if the NFL falls, the NBA falls, everybody falls, we're still going to get shot down in the street. We'll still be getting killed in the street by the police that are sworn to protect and serve us. The only way we will get true change is if we change it ourselves. And we need those black millionaires. We need these NFL teams to support us, our inner cities, to help us get our kids together. That's what we need. And we need our black men to police our own street.
we shouldn't have to depend on them. And that's all I have to say.
Right. Thanks, sis.
I just want to get down there.
All right. Thank you, sis. All right, John, what you got? Give us your take on that.
Well, what I will say is that we cannot expect that we would just be able to divide the United States into black and white. Not going to happen. Even though many of the dollars and programs, unfortunately, are divided into black and white when it comes to who gets the contracts and the jobs and those kinds of things. But we can't, at this point, create our own constitution, our own federal tax program. Right now, the government gets, in terms of taxes, we're looking at a budget of $3.8 trillion. How do we think that we're going to just all of a sudden create our own form of government and say, now you guys need to start giving us your taxes? That's not going to happen. Nor do we want that to happen. We want to be self-sufficient within the system that's already here. And we can do that. For instance, when we form our own organizations that we take care of, that we support, they are much more robust and they're able to speak their minds for us. The NAACP, even though we understand that it was started with some whites, the first president and all that, but it became a organization that stood up for blacks. It was not until they began to use corporate America's money and allow them to then dictate what they got involved with in terms of assisting blacks, that their name began to slip. And people began to feel, well, the NAACP is not going to be worth being a part of. I'm still a part of it. And I'm still a part of it because I believe that if you want change to happen, then you got to be the change. So I need to be in there trying to change things. That's why I'm running for the mayor of North Charleston, is because out of a $100 million budget where blacks are being denied $320 million, as the mayor, I can put that back in the black community. That's going to be much easier than me trying to go out and say, hey, let's start our own new world within the United States and let us forget about the very first word in the whole scheme of what we are, united. And we forget about United States and say, we're going to make our own state. We'll be back then dealing with the Compromise of 1877 when martial law was taken out of South Carolina to allow it to revert back to a state that is primarily based on denial of African Americans of their rights, putting them back into a situation that shows a badge of slavery. So we have to work within the system that we have, and it's not that difficult to do. We don't have people who now sit down, strategize for our black community as a whole, and then begin to implement those things. When they asked Martin Luther King, about the African American community, and they did that simply because he took the time to sit down and strategize. And they knew that he was a central figure. We don't have that now. It doesn't seem that we have any group of people that sit down and have the commitment to taking a strategy for that neighborhood or us as a whole, and then doing whatever it takes to implement that. It takes money to do that. We presently, while we have in America as African Americans, we have a ton of money that goes through our hands. We have more that goes through our hands than most nations. But it goes through for livelihood. We have to continually exist. It's not a lot of expendable cash that goes through the general population that we can use to say, we're going to take this to form an organization, or we're going to support an organization that is going to continually fight for us every day for our rights, the rights that we have, and the greatest strides that we've had were made inside the courtroom. And that's what, and it's expensive, it's time consuming, it's frustrating, but that is the best shot that we have, is inside of the courtroom to get a law that we can then fight for enforcement on. If we don't do that, we're going to be stuck in a situation where if we withdraw completely from what we consider things that are right, with, at this point, them controlling the budgets in this country, we'll be left without. We'll be left without. And that's not, in my opinion, that's not the most expedient way of making blacks self-sufficient.
Okay, good point. So basically, what I'm understanding is you got one group or one side of everybody saying, you know, hey, you work in white America, whatever happens to you, that's what happens to you. We throw you under the bus, basically. You shouldn't even be working in white America. Then you have another side who's saying, hey, no matter if you work in white America, black America, whatever it is, as long as you're here, we need to fight to make sure that our people are not being disrespected, are not being discriminated against. And also, it's kind of like a pipe dream to say, okay, let's get our own, you know, NFL. That is not going to happen overnight. That takes time. So what we're saying on one end is that, yes, these ideas sound so good about, oh, okay, well, the hell with the NFL. Let's just go get our own NFL. Oh, the hell with the NBA. Let's just go get our NBA. Oh, the hell with this. Let's just go get on. We're saying that is a long-term goal, but it's not realistic, and it's not anything that's going to help in the short-term process. Good point. So let me bring on this next caller.
Well,
yes, sir. Let me bring on this next caller. 4727, ending in 4727. Caller, you on the air.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
Hey, peace, brother. What's going on? Talk to us.
Ain't not much. Like I just came in the middle of my man's commentary before. I guess I'll put it here to start with. The main thing is there's going to be different ideas, different ways about getting to where people want to go. My main thing is, why knock another ideology or another mind frame about how it needs to go? The main thing is the work needs to be done. So if you're a reformist, you know, travel down that reformist road, and the moments that you can get together, revolutionary, work together, you'll do that. So revolutionary, do the same. But there's no need in bringing the other side, like having that argument in between each other. So, you know, the groups who are out here doing the work now, you people more they need support, they need funding, they need bodies, people to be active. So we got to spend less time picking apart each other's arguments and more time figuring out, this is the thing I think I can help solve, and then just putting that work in. And we got to be careful sometimes when we talk, man, because some of the stuff we say is like we don't realize that these arguments have not only been had, but all these things we're talking about, people have done. And sometimes they got a lot gained in them, and sometimes things got crushed quickly. But these things have been done. So we gotta stop thinking that everything is messed up, and now we arrived on the scene to be the hero of the same things. Like, nah, dude, this is a long, constant struggle that's been going on for generations, and we got to make the sacrifices to win the change done coming now. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And when I say that, I'm talking about, for some people, they're not even there at all, just based on their opportunity, where they were born, the access they have. So some people are even outside of it. And like I said, I think our biggest issue is just figuring out, okay, pick the side you want to roll with as far as how to fix it, and then just, roll with that. And you got to be satisfied with whatever outcomes you get. Like, don't think your ego means that you have to solve every black problem on earth and you're going to be the one to change everything. I done seen that drive a lot of folks kind of crazy over the years. And you know what I mean? Just going into that ego. But yeah, man, these things are going to be solved and can be solved. And there's a lot of simple things we can do too when we start talking about, like, okay, we got a problem with the NFL. So yeah, the boycott, that's a good idea. Then the other side of that is how much can you get as far as market share of the NFL when you start talking about photography?
when you start talking about broadcast, when you start talking about all these different things that we are not into, that we can now actually train children to start getting into, and then start talking about having more power within that. Now, of course, if you ain't an owner, you're going to have serious issues working within that league. But at the same time, man, there's a lot of industry people involved in it. Just by telling people that, you know, they're there and giving them the tools to get there.
Right. Well, we thank you for calling in, brother. We greatly appreciate that. So now, John, the next thing I want you to really touch on, if y'all don't know by now, this brother is running for the mayor of North Charleston. Last election, man, the brother put up a very wonderful fight. Just keep in mind, the mayor, Keith Summey, has been here now for about 23 years. He has had full control over this city. This is one of the brothers who are running for mayor of the city. So give the people an understanding of, you know, why do you want to run for mayor? What are some of the things you can help do? What are some of the things you need the people to help you accomplish? Give us kind of like an understanding of why you decided to run for mayor of North Charleston.
Well, I ran in 2015 because our community needed a new direction, a direction that was going to include the African American community who was being simply ignored. That's the major reason why I ran. But let me say that, just like we were talking before, all whites are not bad and are against black people. Nor are all blacks for black people, because we have some non-whites who are white supremacists and some non-whites who are literally killing our black community. And that's even here in North Charleston. When we take a look at North Charleston, it's 50% African American, 38% Caucasian, 12% Asian, Hispanic, Native American, other, and unknown. In 2007, we were about 25% of the vote, 2,500 people. 2011, 2,200. In 2015, we began to educate brothers and sisters and the white community as well about what was going on in North Charleston and how offensive and overwhelming the denial was of blacks when it came to the economic pie. Now, we are, as of today, 53% of the voting population because we got out and started educating people, blacks and whites. When we take a look at contracts, $67 million, and then you can go back and look at the inauguration speech of the mayor. Hey, we spent $67 million. What he didn't tell you was only $2 million or $3 million out of the $67 million, I'm sorry, $2 million out of the $67 million went to the African American community, 3% of it. Special projects, we're talking about $18 million, 180,000. 1% of it comes to us when we have 99% going to Caucasians, and a black man operates that program. So we can always say that blacks, every black is going to be in our best interest. $66 million in wages. $66 million. We get 40% of the jobs, but only 20% of the pay. Okay, only 20%, roughly 20% of the pay. So we get $10 million. They walk off with $56 million when it comes to the jobs. When we take a look at their own study, there's a study called the North Charleston Diversity Study. And it was done for the fire department, but it has all departments in it in terms of the ratio and the makeup. And we take a look at every single department at the city. Everyone has at least one white. But at least 5 departments have no blacks, none whatsoever. We are only getting our fair representation with picking up the trash and cleaning up the parks. So that's his statement to us. He said clearly that I'm not going to change one thing. And when he says that, we're talking about $320 million a year that the black community does not have. They go without because we're not treated fair. So he says, I'm not going to do anything different, and if you don't like that, then vote me out. And still after that, we have 1,700 African Americans that voted for a Republican who endorsed Donald Trump, primarily because we've got some sellouts in our community that are giving bad propaganda and information. The choice is real clear. It's either we're going to put up with the buddy system that he himself, and I'm talking about the mayor, says is what he goes by. So it's the buddy system, or we're going to perish. If we leave it up to the buddy system, or we need good government. We need someone who's going to come in, someone who's going to say, I'm going to do it based on fairness. I'm going to do it based on economic parity. If you're 50% of the population, why should you not get 50% of the resources or 50% of the jobs and the contracts? That's a system of fairness. I was speaking with a gentleman the other day, happened to be Caucasian, and he said, well, you're going to get in trouble dealing with this economic parity thing because you're going to be giving contracts to blacks and they're not qualified. I said, how in the world do you get contracts going to blacks being that they're not qualified? I said, when they certify them as a contractor or whatever it is at the state, they're qualified. If they have a certification from the state, then they're qualified. Why should I send them through something additional? Now, once we ever talk about contracts when a white get the contract, do we talk about qualifications? It's only when the money starts to come to the black hands, now we are interested in whether they're qualified. Well, everybody we bring in for a contract will be qualified. But now, and then he went on to say, well, that's going to allow you to then start protecting and giving unnecessary contracts to blacks. I said, hold on, let me explain it to you in a different way. I'm not trying to protect blacks when I say economic parity, because remember now, we're the majority here, we're not the minority. So I'm not trying to protect them with minority set-asides. I'm trying to protect whites. And so he looked at me and said, what do you mean? Pissed off now. I said, there are some in my community that would say that what I need to do to the white community, if I'm elected, is the same thing that they have done to us, which is to take everything they can and give us 1% of special projects and 3% of contracts and only 20% of jobs. I said, but when I say economic parity, you're 38% of the population. You're going to at least, at a minimum, give 38%. So this is a protection for whites, for Hispanics, for blacks, for every sector of the population. It's a protection for a merit-based system that is fair. That's what this is. And so after I explained it to him in that light, why he did not like it, then he still then understood it. And it's not that there is a one certain amount that we have to be pigeonholed into, because I don't have to literally take from whites in order to get something to put in on the black side. We can increase the total production, the total amount of jobs, and as a result, we first give jobs and contracts in abundance to the sectors that are now overwhelmingly unrepresented. What that means is that blacks can begin to come up to where they are supposed to be at 50%. So whites stay where they are right now until the blacks come up to their fair share. That's quite easy to do. So all of the sectors benefit. As long as we look at North Charleston and we feel that there's a definite tide that we have to fight each other, which is the mentality of the system right now, then we go nowhere. That's why it's called the buddy system. But when we take a look at large and say that there's international dollars and there's national dollars, then we can increase and grow North Charleston such that all sectors here can get their fair share. The city is being mismanaged by the present administration. It's being underutilized, and as a result, it causes the people in the city to suffer needlessly, and we can do something about it.
Beautiful. So let's take a caller. Okay, caller. 2161. Caller, you on there?
Hey, how are you doing, Shakem? This is George, upstate South Carolina.
My brother, what's going on? What's going on?
Hey, how are you doing, man? I absolutely felt an obligation to call in and support the show. This is absolutely wonderful. This guy, John Singletary, very impressive. You're conducting yourself very well as a show, so give yourself a round of applause, good bro.
Well, thank you, appreciate it. Shakem and I go way back.
What's that?
I said, Shakem and I go way back. We've shared information over quite a long period of time. And ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to make North Charleston a better place for everyone and give African Americans an economic base in which we can grow. This is the largest city in the state for African Americans and the richest city in the state, and here's where we need to do it.
That is I love that. And I'm going to make a very quick comment, and then I'm going to get off the line and finish vibing to what you all are saying. Because once again, it's just so nice when we come together and talk solution-oriented conversation. My general belief is that we need to do exactly what you all are doing now, and that is get many people from different walks of life to be included and to contribute in whatever way is most feasible to their knowledge base, their connections, and their particular circumstances in life, whether it be in education, whether it be in the wonderful work Shakem does in the school. It's wonderful. You know, I'm kind of a manly, masculine guy, but when I'm by myself and I read about some of the stuff or look at some of the stuff he does, you know, every now and then it brings a little tear from my eye when I think this man was once in the dark prison cell for a long period of time, and now he's come out and turned his life around. That's inspiring, man. So what that tells me is that there are many other Shakems and other people, maybe not like Shakem, but the most important thing is that everyone needs to step up and live for a higher cause. Some people are going to be in leadership. Some people are going to be visible. Some people are going to not be so visible. But the worst thing that a person could be at this time and age is be that type of person who thinks that all of life is about just going to work, getting off of work, watching Empire, eating a bucket of fried chicken, going to Walmart 2 or 3 times a week, going to church on Sunday, repeat for the rest of my life, but never step up for a higher cause. So, listen, you two brothers, I'm going to continue to listen to you all. Congratulations and best of luck to you. I love Brother Thomas Dixon as well and all the others, but there's nothing but positivity and love coming out of all of this. So I'll continue to listen in. And good evening to both of you, and Godspeed and power. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you.
All right, brother. So here's the next question. Speaking about your opposition, let's talk about some of the people are concerned that the black vote will be split. You got a good, powerful brother like Thomas Dixon, very influential in the community. He's running. You another brother, very influential in the community. Now, we know that Mayor Keith Summey has an extraordinarily huge base. For the people who are wondering, is the black vote going to be split? A, that's my first question. Is the black vote going to be split? And B, if somebody, or just hypothetically speaking, one person has more, I would say, steam at a certain point in time, would you expect somebody, whether it be him or yourself, to drop out of the race if it appeared that the vote would be split? What's your insight on that?
Well, 2 questions. Let me take the first one first.
All right.
That is the black vote going to be split? We had 3 brothers running the race last time. And we had 3,300, 500, and 200 in terms of how the vote was split up. So the other two brothers did not, even if all the votes were combined, we would not have been able to win based on the numbers that they put up. So it didn't split it to the point where it determined success. It didn't determine success. So just like anything else, you know, in America, you have the right to run if you're qualified, and you should, because America is about choice. And rather than having a system that's inflexible, that does not allow choice, and that's what freedom of choice, then what would happen is you would have infighting, more infighting in the black community to determine who got to run. Now, true enough, there would be a better opportunity if you had a head-to-head, one person running against somebody. But let me tell you that oftentimes it brings more people out when you have more African Americans in the race. When I owned a Chick-fil-A restaurant and they came out with the food courts, everybody thought, absolutely not. We don't want to be in the food court because there's too much competition. Everybody's going to be. And do you know that when food courts came about, what happened was, because there was a situation where there was so many options, everybody's overall sales went up because people came to the mall then just to eat because of the options. And so it could very well be that more people will come out and vote because more African Americans are in the race. What they have to do is analyze and determine at the end of the day who is going to be able to put more back into the community and then all get behind that candidate. Now, oftentimes, it doesn't happen that the candidates will consolidate, and that's the second question, because each of them, if you're in the race to win.
Right.
You're seeing football games won in the last second, basketball games won in the last second, boxers get knocked out in the last second.
Right.
So it's going to be difficult for one person to concede to say, hey, listen, I'm just going to throw in the towel. Even though we have spoken about that. I spoke to Thomas Dixon. We sat down and talked. He knew I announced back in 2015 that I was going to be running right after the race. And we actually were on another show, and we talked about it shortly after a couple of days. He and I met for lunch. We talked about it, and he said, hey, I'm getting in the race. And I said, fine, no problem. I think that our African-American community needs to understand we've got more than one qualified black, not only for the mayor's position, but for any other position in the city. So we are deep and strong in terms of intelligence, in terms of people who are capable of running the city on the African-American side. Now, whether we get the opportunity to sit to talk about consolidation, I hope we will. I hope we will get to the point where we've got so many people that come out that without question, it's going to be an African-American candidate, and we can then sit down and say that, one of us has got more votes than the other, and if we pool our resources together, we will most definitely take the city. I think that, that would be a wonderful thing because it's a nonpartisan race that we're in. When we take a look at what happened previously, that wasn't the case. When we take a look at, there's something more devastating in our community than 3 or 4 black men running. And let me just tell you the numbers support what I'm about to say.
Okay.
And that is, the sellouts in our community are much more devastating than 3 blacks running. In 2015, we increased the black participation such that we're 53% of the vote. So if in fact our black community just comes together and unify, which is why we're using unity in the community this time, then we are guaranteed to take over the richest city in the state, because we are 53% of the total vote. We have 5,513 African Americans to get out and vote. That's more votes than all the other races combined. We had only 700 votes taken from the top runner by two other African Americans. We had 1,700 African Americans to vote for Keith Summey, many of them because of the leaders that they followed that sold them out. So 1,700 people ended up voting for him. So the vote went to the white community versus only 700 votes that were split in the black community. Had we had the 1,700 votes that went to the white community, Mayor Keith Summey would not be in office. So more devastating than 3 blacks running is the fact that we have some who are selling us out. That's a much larger problem by a matter of 1,000 votes. A much larger problem than 2 or 3 blacks running. And so if we need to concentrate on something that is going to have the greatest effect, it is going to be for us to determine who is selling us out and take their influence away, rather than taking a brother who wants to see the community improve for all citizens, white and black, and deciding to be into the race.
Right. So now next question. You know I like to keep it raw, and I know you keep it raw. Are there any?
Absolutely.
Who do you want to talk about? Any of the black sellouts? Here, you don't got to name them. You can name them if you want to, but I would love for you to name them, because you know I name them all day long. But I know you running. So, but do you want to give us some information on the sellouts here in the city? Maybe who they are? Are they churches? Are they politicians? Who is actually helping sell out the community in North Charleston to keep a majority population, minority city actually under the control of a white Republican who is a Donald Trump supporter?
Let me do it like this. I don't mind saying who they are. Don't mind at all.
Oh, I know.
But let people understand how they can go and take a look and find out for themselves.
Okay.
They can do that.
Okay, let's roll.
What they easily can do is look at the spending transparency report.
Okay.
We've got, unfortunately, in 15, we had many of our ministers in our community and politicians who actually did not come to the aid of the black community. When we take a look, for instance, at Mount Moriah, okay, and I say that because I love the church. I sat in the church, okay? I sat in the church, and while sitting in the church, the president emeritus simply did a commercial for the mayor, saying that he had a vision, okay? And that vision, unfortunately, he did not go on to say did not include the African American community. Now, I sat down with Pastor Robinson and I had a conversation with him. And so I'm not going to say anything that on this air that I have not said to the individual directly, because I believe that if I have a problem with the brother, I'm going to him. I'm going to him and try and straighten it out. And if that doesn't work, then we get a group of men, and then from there we go to the church. That's how the Bible says do it. And so I'm not calling him out to say that he is a bad person. I'm mentioning it because it is factual, that there was $5,000 given to the church that came from the city of North Charleston that coincided with the race, and the fact that he did a commercial, which is unprecedented, for the mayor at the largest black church, or one of the largest in the city. I tried to meet with the Reverend, or let me say, Pastor Hope at Royal Baptist Church. And the meeting never materialized, even though we asked several times, even though I personally asked them several times, because I knew, if you look back at the first article I did in the Chronicle, I said, if our black ministers will get together, this city could have a black mayor. And I asked all of them to be meeting, and they refused to give me an audience. And so I did not get to meet with Pastor Hope, Pastor Nelson Rivers. I asked him to sit down. Every meeting was canceled. When you look at the spending transparency report, you can see where money went to each of those organizations. In fact, I brought out during the race the fact that every single year, almost every month, he paid the utility bills for about 20 years for different organizations. And over at least a 2 or 3 year period, he paid it for churches, white churches only. Up until 2015, not one black church without ministers going and supporting him throughout the community. Not one black church received a dime when it came to utilities. But, and they didn't believe me until they saw it on the transparency report. Now if you go and look, in 2015, when I made it known to the public, it stopped. So those churches, River Bluff being one, who consistently got the money, Friendship by his home got some. And so now he's given a few dollars, but not to those churches. A few dollars have gone to our black churches. So now it appears, if I were to say something about it, that it is the black churches that's getting a few dollars, not utilities paid. So that program goes away altogether. He would rather hurt the white community by not giving them before he is willing to give a black community the benefit of paying a utility. So no one gets it now. But there are a few dollars that he has given to our black churches. Because I check the spending transparency report occasionally just to make sure that I understand how the money flows. We had other churches, black churches, that refused to allow us to come in and to even explain to the people what's going on in this community. So he took the largest black churches we had and gave benefits to the ministers, who then would come and convince their people to go behind him, and it resulted in 1,700 of us voting for Keith Summy. That 1,700 would have made the difference, because he only had 6,300 votes or something like that. And the 1,700 would have greatly decreased his. The 3,300 we had would have put us exponentially over the amount that he had, so we would have had the city. And black churches lose $32 million every year. We got 280 black churches in North Charleston. Phenomenal. But because $320 million a year is taken from our community, because we're not treated fair, 10% of that, which could go to tithes, our black churches lose $32 million a year, which is enough to pay off every black church in one term. You can take the number of people in your congregation and multiply it times 3,000. The number of people in your congregation multiplied times 3,000, that tells you how much money you miss every year that you continually put the same administration in office. That's phenomenal. That's enough to pay your church off. That wipes out the 30-year mortgage that you have. And so I'm not saying this being vindictive towards them. I'm saying that they need to educate themselves as to how we can best help our community. Because even if it is honest misunderstanding that they have, the end result is our black community is suffering. It's suffering. And so, hey, while we're on the air, like I've asked them in person, I'm asking them now so the public can understand that I would like to meet with each of the ministers so that, and politicians, so that we could literally sit down and devise a strategy that will allow this black community in North Charleston to get its fair share. That doesn't mean that we're anti-white just because we stand up for what is black. And it doesn't mean that they have to like me. Because listen, many of the white people in North Charleston don't care for Sunday. Now, they're not going to tell you that, but when you look at the fact that they are getting $320 million that belong to us, they don't have to like him to vote for him because he's putting food on their table. And so even if they don't like me, if I've got a plan that will help them get where they and their community needs to be, then at least they should sit down and listen in the interest of the community, not self-interest, but in the interest of the community. They should listen to at least what I am proposing to move our black community forward.
Wow.
I can go on all day about it, but I think that's enough said.
Man, that's wonderful. And I'm gonna take a caller, but that's very important. That what you said. You know, a lot of times the black church is a large portion of the black church is responsible for the politicians who able to get in and, I would say, poison the community, because we know that most politicians target, especially the dirty ones, the dirty politicians, they target the black churches and give them a little bit of money in exchange for their votes. So I got a caller. Let me
$10,000.
Wait, we say $10,000?
I was just saying $10,000, and he bought out our largest black churches, and as a result, our black community suffers to the tune of $320 million every single year. Man, listen to that. He bought the black vote $10,000. All right. Okay, caller 9733. 9733. You are on the air. 9733. Caller.
Hey, my name's Gareth, and I listen to Blog Talk Radio a lot. I really like this channel. I'm up in Columbia, and I just wanted to say a remark about community and nationalism and separatism.
Okay.
I used to be part of a community nation separatist group, which was based on demographics, and it was the gay community. And what happened, what you think of my community, I don't care, but what I want to make a point is, we had an identity of being a minority that was basically kicked to the curb by others. So we formed our own community. We started thinking of ourselves as being us against them. We had our own newspapers, our own music, our own festivals, our own businesses, our own associations, everything. We had our own, like in the South, there was a huge community in Atlanta. Where, basically at one point, like everybody I knew in my whole social and business life was in this community, and except my family. But we formed our own lands and our own separatist everything, economy and society. And then what happened was, I don't really know why, but the majority started to be interested, and people started selling out because the majority was our culture and they were interested in our people. And all of a sudden, after not too many years, the nationalist separatist community is kind of gone. I mean, we don't have our own lands anymore. We don't have our own, everything has gone mainstream, and now it's all co-opted, and, so that's just kind of what happened. And what I'm saying is, when you're a minority that's been kicked to the curb by those that are, dominant, you get this sense of identity. We're in it together against them. And, looking at African Americans, y'all are not only the majority in North Charleston, the country is, going to be run by people of color, not too far future. And white people like me, to switch over to that demographic, haven't been used to seeing ourselves as a community or a nationalistic identity. I mean, we just see ourselves as a whole variety of different groups, like you've got your liberals and your rednecks and all that, but as we get to be a smaller minority, there may become more of an identity. But right now, I mean, y'all are rising to power, and it's up to you to decide what's next. So good luck with it. I hope it's great, and I hope that we don't see individual wins as one huge community against another. Thanks for listening to me.
Okay, appreciate the call.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate the call. John, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, it's not one community against another. Let's take North Charleston, for instance. I grew up in North Charleston. I went from segregation through integration, and there are a lot of whites and blacks who have beautiful relationships. Some are even married, so they love each other. And what happens in North Charleston is this: the buddy system, one of the most destructive things I've ever seen, pits blacks and whites against each other to make a rich man's war and a poor man's fight. When we take a look at Hispanics, African Americans, Asians, majority of the population in North Charleston versus Caucasians, and we say one has to be against the other. No, if you had 3 children in one family, and the mother and father, who administers everything, takes care of the resources, gave everything to one child, even though the other siblings love their brother and sister, animosity is going to develop because all of the resources go to one. And as a result of that, there is going to be contention. There's going to be fights and everything else, squabbles, and that's what's happened in North Charleston. You've got a small group of people, not all whites, because local whites aren't getting anything either, and we can talk about that for a long time. But you've got a small group of people called the buddy system, and they're taking all of the resources, in order to further their cause, and they're leaving the African American community out. And that creates strife between the local whites, who may not be getting anything, and the African American community versus those in the buddy system. Now, there's a reason why all of this is happening, and you have to understand the overall goal of the buddy system to clearly see the picture. The strife is there because the resources aren't being balanced out. But the reason why the resources aren't being balanced out is because, and I know this is going to bleed into, it's a segue to your next section, okay, but it is because what they're trying to do is increase the constituency base of whites. The demographics of 50% African American and only 38% white does not settle well with the current administration, because he is, now that we have been educated and we're getting out and voting, he is dependent on the black community to be elected. and that just burns him. So what he has to do is increase the number of whites in North Charleston. That means he has to reach outside. So he can't increase the number of whites by just giving money and contracts to local whites. They aren't getting anything either. They're getting a little more than us, but not anything compared to the ones from the outside the state, outside of the local community. They're getting the jobs and the contracts because he needs to entice them to come here to increase the white population. And that then puts him in the position that he does not have to depend on blacks in order to be reelected. Look at the city of Charleston, the most gentrified city in the United States. North Charleston has their plan, and that's what they're using. When we take a look at federal funds that come down, they take them and redivert them. Let's just, for instance, take a look at Oak Terrace. Oak Terrace was once a African-American community. John C. Calhoun homes. It no longer exists. Now, then it became Century Oaks and now Oak Terrace, but it is 97% Caucasian. Okay, 97% Caucasian. The city of North Charleston owns that community. They own the community, and it's selling to 97% white. That is a form of gentrification and exclusionary zoning. When we look at what happened with Liberty Homes, where the mixing is now, when we take a look at what happened with Horizon Village, that the demographics changed to a mixture of white and black, when we take a look at Ashley Shores and what's going to happen there. And so constantly what's going on is he is changing the demographics by bringing in whites from the outside. Most of the people in the mixing, most of the people in Oak Terrace aren't from here locally. They're from outside. He has to do that. Now, that's an ugly thing to admit or to consider, but that's the truth of the matter. And even a racist does not want to be called a racist, okay? Because it now puts him front and center. We continually attack the symptoms of our African-American community rather than the problem that we have. Our problem deals with not getting our fair share, the denial of jobs and contracts, and the fact that gentrification is taking place. When we get our fair share, we can stop gentrification. Now, understand that when I say gentrification, I realize that gentrification is, in America, a black-white issue. Because from the foundation, America, laws, its Anglo-Saxon judicial system, and everything else has been based on systemic racism that deals with a separation of rights and a badge of slavery. But when we take a look at the fact that gentrification is a term that comes out of Europe. There were blacks involved in the formulation. When we look at the etymology of the word, that comes from a situation where whites who had money were taking over the neighborhoods of those who didn't. So it's more of an economic issue than anything else. It's racial here because blacks tend to always be on the bottom of the economic ladder. If we look at the city of Charleston, after they gentrified the east side or downtown, and from 70% African American down to 20%, and we've had 50,000 of them to leave, primarily they came to North Charleston. Now it is the local whites who are having the problem that it is difficult for them to maintain their livelihood. Downtown, they have to build houses to rent out, which is a problem. Why? Because the conglomerates on the top, they don't want any of the rental or overnight stay money to go to the locals who need it to sustain their livelihood. Otherwise, they're going to have to leave. Why? Because the average cost of a home is $400,000 in the city. They can't afford to stay. So gentrification's next phase in the city of Charleston is the local whites who cannot compete with rich whites who are coming from the outside are running them out, gentrifying them, and taking their neighborhood. What has to happen is they have to protect the least of the citizens and not allow gentrification in the black neighborhood, because the next step for gentrification is the local white neighborhood. And that's why we are not getting our fair share of the resources. That's why he's using exclusionary zoning and gentrification tactics in order to import whites into the city, is because he has to change the constituency base. Look at the Noisette. That wasn't a local boy that made money. They're not Western from here. Take a look at Ingleside, German-based company. They're not from here. Take a look at the Navy-based hospital. They're not from here. I'm talking about the multi-million-dollar deals and the $67 million in contracts. Most of that, it's not going to local whites. So the local whites, if they really want a shot at getting a piece of the pie, then the local whites, they have to pool with us as blacks in order to get a piece of the pie.
Right. Okay. So that's a good thing. Matter of fact, we got a caller on the air. Let's see. Caller, okay. 6722. Caller 6722.
Thank you. Hello?
Yes, sir. Peace, brother. How you doing?
Brother, this is Brother Leon next, calling from New Orleans.
Peace, brother Leon next. What's going on?
What's going on, man? Calling from New Orleans. Peace, brother. Local chair of the New Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in New Orleans. And a very interesting topic in terms of trying to figure out an approach to and asking people in America, dealing with the Europeans. Okay, the same issue that Charleston, I'm familiar with that issue that's going on in Charleston. Same issue that concerns in America happened in New Orleans. So, okay, we're talking about gentrification. You so ask yourself this question here. And I was listening to the gentleman, trying to be educated brother, in terms of the approach of the last 10 years. They're pushing that same issue, using the same tactics, the same issue, the approach of getting what we used to have, the full integration. We didn't have much, but we had a lot. You look back in the early 1900s, after the so-called emancipation of 1868, 58, after the so-called emancipation, we had the Garveyites, we had the Black Wall Street. And in turn, what happened was, and I want you to look at this approach, we're doing the same old thing. W.E.B. Du Bois and the 100 bourgeois educated Negroes went around and helped with the Rockefellers do us, okay, in terms of being a betrayal of our community. So all I'm going to say is to you guys is, if you think the vote, so we're going to vote ourselves out of this deal, it ain't going to happen. European will never allow you to allow your vote because the win, because it's in the same capitalist system that we're dealing with, democratic system, state system. So for us to beat this system, you have to have an approach to, hey, guess what? You got to think self-determination. And then you always talk about that. Self-determination. Not utilizing anything that got to deal with them. We have to deal with ourselves. If you keep thinking in terms of a capitalist approach, you're going to fail. You notice those in the capitalism that utilize the capitalism system that look like us. Guess what they done? Look at Michael Jordan. It's about I, me, and I. And he's more destructive to our community than anybody. So in terms of us, this approach of our community and the approach to beat this system, how we're going to come out of this oppressed system. The alternative is that we got to come together, and not from the vote. The vote ain't no vote. I tell folks all the time, we've been voting since they so-called emancipated us and where it got us at. And we keep saying, well, we all come together and vote. What the problem with the vote is that the white racist supremacist system will not allow one of us to be in that tier position. What we want to do is allow a bourgeois, we use the term coon, to be in that position. And all they do is work for master. So all I'm saying is this to our people. Think black economics from across the board. And if from a Pan-African terminology, not, you thinking about, I want to be a millionaire. We ain't talking about that approach. We're talking about everybody getting a piece of the pie, so-called pie.
Okay, not that one in the sky, but we talking about the one on earth. You know, where we all can have our children living in a community like we used to have the Black Wall. So y'all can name, I think, Florida. Even in Charleston, they had a black community that was, I mean, it was amazing before this integration. It was amazing how they did things in spite of all that enslavement. I'm gonna tell you something. I just come from northern Louisiana, where my people, you know, from. And I saw those mounds that my great grandfather told me that those was our people, the indigenous people. We ain't talking about these so-called Indians, they name Indians. In these mounds in northern Louisiana. And I was like, how did they do that? How did they get there? How did they accomplish that? These mounds are older than the pyramids. They look like us in North America. Okay, so I'm telling you this, that we made it through all that land since they enslaved us. After enslaved us, we had it. We had us. We all we had. We learned it. We had job skills because we had to learn it on the plantation. And then what happened was they said they went to educating us. So you educate the people. Now you got the great divide, classism. And so that's what I'm saying. We can overcome the classism that we do to each other. Man, we got to eliminate classism. We got to eliminate, oh, I got my degree. What you got? Oh, look at my tennis shoes. Look at your car. Look about your car. If it's a black, African black people can see each other as one, as a one in a unified way, think no Europeans stop us. We wouldn't give a damn about they folks. Let them have that system. They can have it. We're going to focus on us. Black power, that's all I have to say. Black power,
peace, brother. All right, John. This is the next question I got to ask you.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we're about to talk about this. Because for the people who are saying voting doesn't matter, you're running for mayor of the city. So for people that say voting doesn't matter to blacks, give your side to that.
Voting is the tool that is the equalizer for us. It does matter. Every single vote counts. It's just like Shaka Zulu and a spear where he went from village to village and got one or two people from each village. When he reached the shore, he had an army. When we consider that we went from 25% of the vote to 53 being the majority of the vote, it matters. When, if, for instance, the gentleman just talked about gentrification. Katrina came in to New Orleans, and when Katrina came in, whole black neighborhoods are now white. So it was a one-time mass gentrification of New Orleans. So that's what he was talking about the gentrification. Katrina was the vehicle they used for that. If they had voted prior to Katrina to become the tool that controlled their city, their environments, then that would not have happened. Capitalism now has moved from capitalism in America to protectionism. So we need to stop worrying about engaging in capitalism, because a lot of African Americans are engaged in it, but we need to focus on how to protect ourselves against protectionism, because that's why it's difficult to get engaged in capitalism, is because at the top they have moved to protectionism. For instance, let's take a look at voting. Maryville, South Carolina, which was a own city right here in Charleston. The state, the General Assembly, they just simply took their charter. It was a prosperous black community. They simply took the charter. They could have easily been the community that grew to the point where they would have been able to assist blacks in getting contracts and jobs and everything else. We need to realize that our vote in North Charleston, we are the most powerful group in South Carolina, here in North Charleston, the most robust, because nowhere else did the vote increase 160%. Nowhere else do we have over 5,000 blacks voting at one time. Nowhere else are we 53% of the population. Nowhere else are we a total of, we have the largest, second largest, and the richest city in South Carolina. Nowhere else did we also have the largest pool of blacks who did not vote. We had 28,000 blacks who didn't vote at all, period. So we have the largest pool to draw from. That is why our vote not only counts, but our vote is our livelihood. Our vote is our lifeline to a better day for us and our people. And when I say people, I'm talking about our children, our grandchildren, and far beyond. We could, in numbers, get out. If we had 80% of the blacks to get out and vote, 3 blacks could get in the race, and every single one of them have more votes than Keith Subby had. Every single one of them, guaranteeing a black mayor. So the issue is not the number of blacks. The issue is that our vote is so critical, and our vote is so important. It literally can be connected to not just the quality of life, but life itself for us in North Charleston.
All right, let me ask you a question.
We're going to be gentrified.
Yeah, okay, quick question. So you got these, let's look at some of the largest black cities like, Detroit, and you got New Orleans, Los Angeles. Look at some of the D.C., some of the large Atlanta, some of the largest city with black mayors. However, we're looking at a system where it seems like they're still systematically under the yoke of oppression, the same way how we are with the white mayor. Tell me what more than just a black face is needed in order for us to progress. Like what has to come along? What type of a sense of I would say, what needs to be, how do we need to hold these people accountable? What can you say that's going to make us feel better here in this city, that you won't be like the mayor of New Orleans when he let his city crash, or Detroit, or any of these cities where you have black faces, but then you still had, oppression?
Well, when we take a look at the large black cities, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Detroit, Houston, Memphis, I mean, on and on and on, we think that our black mayor is going to come in and in one term overturn hundreds of years of slavery and a system that is a buddy system. It's not going to happen overnight. When we take a look, when we take a look at many of those mayors that have been black, that have been targeted, it's been because there is an overriding concern when you have a black mayor that, by the establishment, that we need to make an example out of him and we need to put his mouth in jail so nobody else will dare want to take that position.
Right, John. Let me say one more thing. Okay, all right. I'm gonna get these.
When we look at Marion Mary in D.C.
Okay,
Marion Mary gave contracts to blacks, and as a result, it is still the largest city in terms of black contractors. Our largest black contractor in the United States comes out of Atlanta, Georgia, from H.J. Russell, who got his segue with the airport, Hartsfield Airport. Why? Because Mayor Jackson said, we're going to shut it down, everything, until we get us a black GC, and he makes some money also. So while they publicize all the negatives, there has been, in our black cities, there has been, that have had mayors, there have been more millionaires produced than in any of the other cities. And so at the worst, when we switch from a city that has predominantly black, white rule to a black mayor, the city always does better for the black community than previously. Now, that's not what we hear on the news, but when you check the numbers and you check where the millionaires are being made and the quality of life, they come out of the city where the mayors are black, but that's not what we hear, brother.
Oh, wow. Okay, sounds interesting. All right, let's take another caller. Caller ending in 1300. You got to turn your radio down. We get feedback, caller.
They come out of the city where the mayors are black. That's not what we hear.
Caller.
Oh, wow. It sounds interesting. All right, let's take another caller. Hey, bro.
I just cut him off. Hello, brother.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Now? Hey, I'm gonna let you know, first of all, I am supporting John Singletary, campaign manager. I'm no bias, okay? But let me give you some facts in North Charleston. This is because I'm calling because of the response to your earlier caller about the black vote. We need the black vote. 30% of our population is in poverty. 30% and you know that 30%, that represents us. All right, the average, now the poverty rate for the country is 14%, and for the state is 19%. But yet we're in the richest city in North Charleston at 30% poverty rate. The average black family of 4 makes $35,000 a year. The average white family makes $65,000 a year. Okay? It is now, let me say this here also. This is a national stat came out by the Roots. I don't know if you, the website, The Roots. Now it says that the average middle class black family net worth, wealth, is $1,700 minus the car. The average white family is $111,000. We don't have no money. Politics is going to get us that money that we need. We don't have reparations. I would love to get it, but we don't have reparations. But one thing we can do is put a mayor in office that's going to allow us to get access to the jobs and the contracts, because we are lacking in wealth. 8 years ago, home ownership went from 46% to 40% nationwide. Our wealth is built in our homes. Mayor Sonny, he wants to have affordable homes. Well, we know what that means. We know that. That's Section 8 homes. We need home ownership, and we need to build wealth in the black community, and the vote is the way to do it. Thank you again for the opportunity, and John, you can chime in. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate that, brother.
Shakem?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, is someone else?
Yes, I'm here.
Going back to when they were talking about the cities with African American mayors. When we look at the number of millionaires and the richest black communities in those, they are in the cities where those black mayors have been. And it is because those black mayors gave access to the economic piece of the pie that has been missing, that on the whole, that they were able to become millionaires. That's why we're here in North Charleston. Think about it. Man's been there 23 years, and he can't tell you one black millionaire he's made. Spent billions of dollars. Can't tell you one black millionaire he's made. We'll make at least 10 the first year. Why? Because no holds barred. We're not apologizing. I'm going to put the $320 million that's missing in the black community back in the black community. Now, that does not say that we're going to neglect the white community. No, but we're going to get our fair share. And we're not apologizing for getting our fair share. Because after all, we're the majority. We're not the minority here. And we don't have to then go begging for it. We simply say we're going to do what is fundamentally fair to all sectors of the population. And the fairness means that we get our $320 million.
That's right.
So I don't understand when people say, tell me what you're going to do different than what the present mayor is already doing. When I'm telling you, I'm giving you $320 million. That's different. He's already said that he is not going to change a thing. And if you don't like it, vote him out. Okay? He's already promised you retribution. I'm saying jobs and contracts in the churches, access to $32 million. I'm saying partnering with the Community for Better Education. I've made it clear that we're going to redo the police department and the judicial system. We're going to bring to your communities a mega sports complex. We're going to reduce 16 community centers in our area, because 4 of them have already been done, and accountability, integrity, those kinds of things. So this will become a city that has produced black millionaires. And if they haven't done it since 1972, believe me, they're not going to do it.
Right. Ooh, man, that's right. Okay, let's sneak this last call in. We about to be out. This has been a very enlightening discussion, man. John Singletary is all, man, this brother here is amazing. You'll be hearing more from him as time goes along, man. This is our first segment, our first show. So we're going to be, man, we're going to be pounding the airways, having these discussions, man. It's a lot of good brothers and sisters, man, who I'm going to bring on. We definitely need these discussions. Okay, caller, ending in 4644. Caller, you're on there.
You know, this gentleman here that's talking is really laying it out. It's very seldom you hear someone that's a candidate for that position talk about creating actually future bosses of his position. Because businesses control politics, and politics control the police. Police is nothing but employees, and you, the municipality, are their bosses. If you let them run wild in your community, then the onus is on you. And you're absolutely right what you're saying. Just like Maynard Jackson created those millionaires, at the same time, he created future campaign contributions to candidates that the people, the businesses say, this is what we want you to do. At the same time, your schools, get those kids out of that wretched system. Support choice, where a parent can put their child where they think is best for them, and the money follow them to that institution. It could be online schooling. It don't have to be the same old whoop dog they call charter school. I hope you success, mister. I really do.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. All right, John, give us your final words. You got the last 5 minutes, brother. Give us your final words.
Well, first thing I like to do is I like to say thank you for inviting me on. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. It's been enlightening. Just listen to the callers and being able to respond to them off the cuff. You know, that's the way I roll. And I want to commend you in stepping out. You know, brother talked earlier about how there was a period of time when you have been taken away from us in terms of public. Right. And we have many of our brightest minds, many of our civil rights leaders with courage that have been silenced because they have been taken away from the public. Sometimes due to something they did, sometimes unjustly, but the bottom line is that they've been taken away. So I'm glad to have you back and glad to have you out there plugging in the community. I'd like to say to the North Charleston community that it's a serious time. You know, we're not talking about entertainment here. What we're talking about is the long-term effects that the decisions that we make today are going to have on our children, our grandchildren, whether or not they have for their lifetime just a job or whether they create wealth, whether they get to realize the dreams that they had, the same dreams that some of us had, laying in bed at night, looking up at the stars, looking up at the ceiling. And I say stars because you'd be surprised at how many people actually sleep outside. I know of people who I grew up with, some of them had to literally sleep out on the front porch because too many children were already in the house, okay? So when we consider that we in North Charleston, we are a group of blacks who are intelligent, we have a lineage and a history from kings and queens. We are a group of people who, if we could come together, just one time, November 12th, 2019, and we can say unity in the community is going to be ours at all costs. We're going to come together. We're going to get to the polls, and we are going to bring home the bacon. We're going to literally get out and vote in such numbers that it overwhelms the voting system that they have. And in overwhelming it, they have no choice except to concede that we've won the race. That's what it's going to take. You take a look at the ES&S Ivotronic system that they have used in terms of voting. And there's a lot to be desired, but we can't complain. We can't complain about what they're doing to us, what they have done against us, as long as we have 28,000 people who choose not to get out
90
and
seconds.
stake their claim, to put their vote in, to say that I and my vote are going to make a difference for my child. You're voting for your child. You're voting for your grandchild. You have to pick that one vote that you have, and you have to bring it to the polls, because North Charleston needs it. The community needs it. And I'm not talking about just the black community. Whites in America are going to have to be educated and introduced to a black with a different mindset before they are willing to change.
Right. All right.
So we have to be the change that we want.
Right.
That vote is so important. That vote is so important that nothing, absolutely nothing, should stop you from November 12th getting out, walking to the polls to make sure that you cast that vote, and that you stand on the fact that when you cast your vote, that you are willing to say to your child that, listen, my vote not only is important, but it is so important that come hell or high water,
10 seconds.
I'm going to go through rain or snow or whatever it is to cast this vote, because it's your future.
All right, we are.
It determines where to go.
Okay, thank you, Brother Singletary. You take care. We got time.
All right.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
All right, y'all. We out. Peace and power.